This video might be a little controversial because I'm talking about business capabilities and how they relate to business processes, a topic that causes more than its fair share of confusion and debate. I've been around too long to think I'll solve those problems, either here or at any other time, but at least I can share my view. The short version of which is that a capability is the ability to execute a process. Let's explore that a little more. Get some process practitioners and enterprise architects together and ask them to explain business capabilities. Take plenty of popcorn. It's likely to be quite a show. In this video, I want to explore some of those issues and understand process and capabilities and how we might be able to use them together. This whole video series is about process, so I won't labour the point here, but it's just to remind us how I think of process. So these are processes. This is an extract from a process architecture, and processes are telling us how we execute strategy, how we deliver value, ultimately in our cross-functional processes outside the organisation. And our processes are always in this verb-noun format, do something to something. So we've got register patient, manage patient, provide aftercare, those kinds of things, all processes. And we've got a hierarchy of processes. And on this slide, we're seeing 3 levels of process. And I think of process-based management as this ongoing mechanism, this management philosophy. We've got a process architecture, so we've identified our processes. We get the circles turning, as I say, so we do process management to make wise choices about which processes to improve. So we've got the PO and the PI circle. To get the circles turning, we use the 7 enablers, which enable the circles to turn. So lots of videos about all of that here in this series, so I won't try and recreate all of that here. You can go back and pick up on any of those on the YouTube channel. So let's talk about capabilities, and I doubt that's been mentioned in this context anywhere on any of the other videos, because it's not something I've found a great need for, to be honest. Let's have a look at some definitions of capability. Bisbok would say that the business capability defines what a business does. It doesn't communicate or expose where or why or how something's done, so it's all about what is done. Okay, that's one definition. TOGAF says it's a particular ability that a business may possess or exchange to achieve a specific purpose. Okay, so there's 2 definitions from leaders in the whole enterprise architecture field with lots to say about business capabilities. So I think from that I'm hearing people say there and in other places that a business capability, it's the ability or capacity of an organisation that's required to achieve a particular outcome. Now, the process guy here hears that and says that sounds like the ability to execute a process. So when I think about capabilities and hear people talking about it, it always sounds to me like the ability to execute a process. And that's not to denigrate capabilities. We need to be able to execute processes. That's what it's all about. So that's the way I think about it. Maybe you've got a different view, but my process mindset takes me to that point all the time. So here's an example. You might say an organisation's got a capability called partner management. That's a pretty common capability you'll see in lots of capability models. The process view of that, though, in my terms, would be a process called something maybe nurture partner relationships, or maybe it's control or maintain partner ecosystem. So if we're managing, say, nurture partner relationships, actively managing it in the active process management terms that I outline in these videos, what would modelling and management of a capability add? I don't see it myself. I think if we've defined the process architecture in the right way and we're actively managing those high impact processes, then I think we're achieving what we need to do. We do need the capability to execute nurture partner relationships, of course, and we'll measure it and we'll understand what's working and what's not working and how we can make it better. And some of that is about human capabilities and technical capabilities, all of those sorts of things. So I think we're achieving the same thing. I just find the process architecture and the ideas of active process management delivering what I need. Now, we do need a process architecture, and a capability model can be a very useful thing. It's a different perspective, as is the organisation chart, and there's no equivalence between those three things. We might derive them all from strategy, but it doesn't mean one is just a reworked version of the other. All three of those things are important, useful, and different. Then we need to also, I see this often, we see what I call the magic arrow. We'll see a capability, perhaps a whole model and then an arrow that goes off to one or more processes. And the implication is that the capability decomposes into a process or transforms into a process by some form, and I'm never sure what the form is. So I think the bad news is there is no magic. Certainly I don't see processes being decomposed from capabilities. If I'm starting to put together a process hierarchy or architecture, I would start with the strategic documents, not just with a capability model. So I think we need to be careful about that. It's another issue in process that we have all the time about getting good definitions of terms and getting agreement amongst that, or at least understanding where we agree to disagree. So how do we summarise that? So for me, capability is the ability to execute a process. That's pretty clear, and that's a useful thing. So I think capability definition is useful, and having a model, useful, important. It can provoke good conversation about what the organisation's all about. But it's never, for me anyway, a replacement for any kind of process work. It's a different view, a different perspective of the organisation. So I think of a capability model and related artefacts as being part of the statement of strategic intent, strategy documentation. It's there with the vision, the mission, objectives, purpose statement, whatever other components you have in your statement of strategic intent. Capability, for me, lives there. It's the set of capabilities that we need to keep this show on the road and make it successful. So I think that's a useful thing there. And then when I come to help organisations do process-based management, we would go to the full set of whatever's there as the statement of strategic intent. And that can be quite variable in different formats. Sometimes it's a couple of paragraphs, sometimes it's many pages. But whatever it is, that's where we start, because we want to know what promises we make, and it's our processes that are going to deliver on those promises. So capabilities, they can be very useful, and many people get lots of use out of that. Personally, I've never found the need to use those to develop process-based management operation. And I think if we're doing active process management in the way I define it, capabilities, I just don't find them necessary. Thanks for joining me for this Process Insight. What's been your experience with the documentation and use of business capability models? It can be a contentious topic, but there's room for many points of view. We'd all love to hear about your thoughts and experiences. More information about me and my work at my website. You might be interested in the Tregear BPM overview document that summarises my approach. The links are below. You have my contact details. I'd be delighted to connect. And thanks for sharing this time with me. If you'd like to continue the conversation, I'd love to hear from you.